So I think we will start, right? So, okay, welcome all of you, and thank you for joining this exciting discussion series. I'm Yamini, the editor at the Architect's Diary, and I'll just quickly brief you about what we have been doing, what we've been up to, and a lot of other initiatives that we have started for the members of TAD. Right. So, now that we have been growing as a TAD family, we have a TAD members only initiatives, which is, one of them is Design Eco, which is a weekly newsletter that is everything art, design, and architecture. So a newsletter that goes out weekly, and it has a vast audience now. And then there is Blended, which is one of a kind mobile application, developed by TAD for design, entirely for design. So you get every news update from design, architecture, and again art. All the global updates in that one single application. So I think it's going to be a revolutionary move now. Then there is the Architect's Diary exclusive magazine, which we have. It's a digital magazine wherein we are covering, exclusive projects and their exclusive details. And and that is also for members only. And again, then there is IDA, which is one of a kind, iconic digital event. Which is also going to be happening this August. So I'm sure, you guys are, looking forward to it as well. So yeah, that was a quick brief that what we have been up to lately. And now I think we will quickly introduce, you guys can introduce yourselves to everybody. Let's first start with Sebastian. Sebastian, I think you're mute.
I am surely audible. Hi, my name is Sebastian and I'm a photographer. I head the organization called PHXINDIA, which basically is a multidisciplinary thing. And I'm 20 years in the business, 22 to be precise. And currently we are a team of 20, which includes 2 stylists. So the conversation, I think, can be meaningful.
All right. Yeah. Next, we can go with Zina.
Hi, I'm Zina Mehta. I'm an architect turned interior stylist. I have my own practicing firm where I practice interior designing and architecture. Along with that, I head Uplifting Depictions, that is majorly for interior styling. And we've been into business for past 5 years now.
That's great. That's great. All right. Sweety.
Hello everyone, I'm Sweety. I'm a founder of the Space Styling. I've been doing styling since past 1 year. I'm a designer and I shifted into interior styling because designing is sort of a tough thing than a styling one. And I have a team of 2. That's it.
Okay. All right. So I think we have Sonal as well. Sonal, hi.
Hi everybody. Hi. So I'm Sonal and I'm a partner at the and is about 5 years old. And we mostly specialize with residential interiors. Of course, interior styling and all that we end-to-end projects. So we do our projects completely with styling as well.
Right. Okay. So I think, yeah, so without any further waiting for anything, we will start the discussion. And okay, so let's start with Sonal. Okay, so you being a designer, could you tell us something about the various techniques of documentation of a completed project that you might have tried or come across of your course of career till date?
So documentation of the projects. So what we have usually as a firm been doing is, of course, photography, which still photography, which is something we do. Of course, there are video tours as well, which is a rage nowadays. So where the entire project is documented in bits with videos. And I think what we as a firm also do, if you go through our Instagram page, you would realize that we do a lot of reels, like quick short reels to just showcase that space. So those are a few things that we think is really in rage now. So that's how we have been documenting it. And of course, we're looking forward to more and more better ways. First, there were IGTVs where you had full videos, and now they are quick, crisp reels, which I think is doing really, really well, because now people really want to scroll through fast of the video. They want snippets of the space and not like really short, videos going through the entire space. So I think reels are doing really, really great for now.
All right. Would any of you like to add the different techniques that people have tried, or clients that you might have come across with
I
different
think
kind of?
she covered it all. I mean, that's what is happening in the current scenario. So it's either photography, video. There are no dramas in the interior spaces, and so reels are like, I mean, that algorithm keeps changing. Every year you will have something new that crops up, and people fall for it immediately. But the only point I would like to make over here is that depends on what you're looking at. For example, if you're looking at the younger crowd, these reels and everything are far more effective. But if you're looking at an established kind of an audience, I'm talking about older people, slightly older people who probably are your clients, who are willing to pay the money to hire you. They don't tend to fall for reels. They go through your Instagram page at leisure whenever they get the time, and they're a little slow on it, and it's not like a daily business. So all the youngsters in my team are on reels every day, but the people who are older and serious, once in a while they will look at reels. So I tend to do it because it's a part of our business, but I know people who don't do that every day. But having said that, speaking to the youngsters with reels today is good for business tomorrow. So keep that going.
True.
Okay, so now that we know about Sonal's perspective. Sebastian, you have a team of photographers, stylists, video makers, cinematographers, everybody, right?
Whole jingling, full circus.
You have a team of all of them, right? Together. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, how do you head the coordination with the designers? Is there any involvement, from the client side? How do you strategize the whole coordination thing?
If you look at the timeline of what I've been doing, 22 years ago, the term stylist was not known. The architect was everything. Architect was stylist, architect was, you can say creative director. They do everything. So from that point till say about 8 or 9 years ago, when stylists really started cropping up, and stylists were also interior designers who put the tag of stylist. Now, as you go deeper into the profession, the real full-time stylists started coming only maybe 7-8 years ago, when they're doing nothing else but only styling. They are not designers, they are not architects, they are only doing styling. And which means they don't practice architecture, they don't practice design, but they only do styling. So that is the timeline in which we are talking about styling in India. And the stores, wanting to help us get stuff to across to the client, so that it's almost like a demo for their products if they understand this very clearly, but still they don't. But that is how the whole timeline is. And now, when I was growing up into the business, there was no stylist, so I had to become the stylist. So if I did not know it, I had a bad edge over the others. So anybody who understood styling was a better photographer or a more successful photographer than the one who absolutely did not understand it. And so you start learning from the designers. So of the whole lot of designers, I would like say there are 5 or 6 of them who are brilliant stylists, who placed their objects in a very, very nice way, who chose objects correctly. So you learn from them, and then you try to emulate that, go and teach that to somebody else. So that process has come to a point where, as a photographer, I am spending so much time trying to set the bed right, trying to get the flower in place, trying to get the frame in place. And where is my core competence? I'm getting paid for only the photography. I'm getting paid for only the picture. So that is suffering, because After setting all the bed, the designers, the other people go and sit down. Oh, we are so tired, but I have to still continue taking the picture and then go back to the next place. So somewhere, I mean, that common sense prevailed that I cannot continue doing this forever. So then you had assistants, but assistants with aesthetics, I mean, it's like question mark. You have to keep searching for them. And then you start looking for people who want to specialize, and then you grow them into the business. You teach them, you take them around as assistant for some time, they learn, and then they figure out a few things. They do some YouTubes and they do some Pinterest studies, and they come back after some time with some kind of competence to understand aesthetics. Now, styling is not just placing stuff. It's also, you know, there are a lot more layers to it. As we discuss, we'll understand that. So for me, it has been about teaching people how to, you know, handle a shoot, manage a shoot. It is not about permanent styling. It's not about styling for good. It's for getting my shoot done fast. And it became a serious thing, because to find people who can be efficient so that we can be efficient, we can find time to sit down for 5 minutes. That was all the motivation. And from there we said, okay, fine, let's create something which is, you know, basic standards should be maintained. Beyond this, we will not do. Designers started trusting us. Designers started believing in what we are saying. And so if I say, nahi acha lag raha hai, they would take it at face value, not question it. And so it grew. And today, yeah, if I say something that this has to be kept in a particular way, I have to be very careful, because they're taking it seriously. And it's like a whole onus on us. I'm not a designer, I'm just a photographer. But yeah, what is a photographer without aesthetics? So there it is.
Right. So, Zina, would you like to add on something?
Yeah, I think there are 2 points that Sebastian brought into light. Understanding, like he said, the better the stylist understands the photography, the better he can be. That's very true. I completely agree on that, because during styling, you need to understand a lot of textures. You need to play with a lot of textures, colors. You need to understand how each material is going to reflect the light, and then using that to your benefit is very important. Just placing things for the sake of placing, I don't think that works, and I support that completely. Also, second thing that I wanted to like bring to notice was styling is more about aesthetics of what, like it's the designer has designed the project, but interior stylist takes the notch higher. It's like the designer is setting the mood for the entire house, but the stylist is adding character to it, you know, like remove all the elements that the stylist is putting it. It's not just placing bed sheets or, you know, adding pillows or layering cushions and anything. If I remove all that, anyone can say that in that particular house, it's just because it's a good design. But styling is more about, if I'm an avid traveler, it should reflect that I'm an avid traveler. So basically, styling is telling a story and making the space more habitable and livable. It should look like the space is, someone is actually inhabiting that place.
Right.
Can I add something to what she said?
Yeah, definitely.
So she's almost got it there, that, you know, it's not about just placement of stuff, but if you have to define, you know, scientifically define styling, like anything else in aesthetics, it can be scientifically defined as well. It can be instinctive. To today, the whole bunch of people, kids that I meet, are instinctive. There is no science behind why they are suggesting some things. So the instincts are good and they are damn good stylists. But sometimes to understand why and what they are doing, and to decipher it, and to ask, and somebody says "Kyun rakha ye?" and to answer that question, that's when, you know, the real logic behind it has to be alive. So styling basically has two aspects. One is the functional aspect, and the other is the aspirational aspect. So when we talk about the aspirational aspect, we're talking about creating a mood or lifestyle or a suggestive story to talk about the kind of personality who lives behind. So when she mentioned, okay, traveler, what if it's the house of a doctor? What if it's the house? So today, when I look at pictures all around our Instagram pages from all our photographers and designers, you cannot identify a character. There is no character. It's a placement of, it's like a setting up a whole lot of pieces together, and oh, I saw this in Instagram, I saw something. So you can start identifying, oh, these things are done commonly everywhere. Now, where is the character? Where is the personality? Whom have you designed this house for? At some point or the other, the photography narration has to have the same storyline that the designers keep telling me, that, okay, we are designing for a certain personality, for a certain person, for a certain clientele who has a certain lifestyle. So if I go down, I take the same design to Gujarat, and I take the same design to Kerala, and I take the same design to Hyderabad, I am sure that there will be differences. And today, when I mix all the pictures up and I cannot identify them, I think we have failed to tell the narration or the story in a better way. We are kind of only looking at putting things together and somehow getting our job done as photographers, as stylists, as designers, as everybody else. There is no individual to be put into the spotlight here. But very important is that what's happening in historical parlance is that many years later, when we look back at this period of time in Indian design, you will suddenly see that it has no character. Everything is looking the same. So I think it's up to the designers, and more importantly, it's up to us as photographers, as stylists, to differentiate. Like, all of them can have a Bentley sofa there, but one Bentley sofa can have a different attitude than the other Bentley sofa. It's purely by the elements that you place with it, around it, on it, etc., etc. So aspirational styling is good. It purely works for the designer, but functional styling is something that will last longer. Now, it becomes too complicated to get into nitty-gritty of what functional aesthetics can become. But it's like if I ask you to put a glass and you put a steel glass there, vis-a-vis you put a glass there, you put a wine glass there. So each of them depict a certain kind of a notion. And if we can get that right, and we can create a character or story out of that particular bunch of pictures, I think everybody wins in this. Everybody wins in this, the designer, the stylist, the client as well.
Yeah, so that's where I think a designer's role is much more into the picture, into the act, because we are in association with the clients from the kickstart of the project. Yes, from the beginning. So it's like an onus on the designers to get that character forward, to get the personality of the clients forward in their designs. And because I think the association with stylists mostly happens towards the end of the project, I think that somewhere gets lost. And, you know, it's all about the composition of the pictures and how beautiful it looks, how aesthetic it looks. And basically, to be honest, what sells, right? So I think that's with the designer, that it has to start, and it has to come through the designer to the stylist to the photographer as to what is the essence of the space that we are trying to capture.
So the brief has to be clear, which is normally not the case. I have a 3 BHK, I need to finish it in a day. So figure it out.
Yes, I think that's what happens given the strict deadlines and timelines and whatever is happening around the shoots, where everything has to be very quick. So when the association starts a little prior, where you try to understand the whole space, understand the clients, I think that's when the transition happens, even through the pictures.
So it's important for a stylist to get associated with the project way before the shoot.
Yes.
Not like a day before you are called to get some plants, get some books, get some cups and saucers. I mean, what do you expect? I mean, you do not get that. So I think the stylist now will have to say that, okay, I need at least a week, and I need to know the clientele, what is the background of the people, so that I can help you. It's not that I want to control the whole. So there is a huge clash between designers and stylists, where the designers feel that the stylist is taking the credit for what they have done. And that role is not defined in India. In India, it's like the designer seems to be everything. End to end, he's a carpenter, she's the plumber, she's everything. Everything is her. And so I think that needs to be defined. You have put together the whole thing. The stylist has come and enhanced it, has kind of made that little more prominent. Now, that respect between the two professionals will help this profession come through. In India, at least, I mean, where the designer starts liking and respecting and connecting with the stylist, thing. This is my idea. Give me something that will help depict this person as a traveler. So then the ideas will start flowing, and I think everything then can become a story. We try very hard to find characters, but even they themselves do not have the right stuff. So I ask for, like, for example, sneakers, and they're like dirty sneakers. So now the designer only wants beautiful sneakers. Now, we are still grappling with the idea of reality vis-a-vis illusion. And that will continue. I don't think it's going to stop very soon.
Even I feel like the stylist should come in the middle where the designers are designing, because we can understand what the designer taste is, and we can go like, the designer knows client very well. Simultaneously, even we can know that, the client wants this, the designer at the end need this sort of beauty, this sort of around this space. So I feel that the designer should understand, the stylist should be getting in the middle. Like, they should not say, like, I have to do my shoot in 2 days. You need to get things, stuff collected and all. This is a difficult thing. It is like a huge task for a stylist. Like it bus like they say na कि मुझे चाहिए 2 दिन में shoot. I want my shoot to be done in 2 days. I want my site. I need to hand it over it to my clients. Stylists needed at least 8 days time or more than that to understand the space, to understand the client, what they want, how to depict the clients, like to give a brief about the clients and the space as well.
But honestly, I'll tell you what's happening. I think in the previous scenarios, when there were clients who are not opting to style their space as such, and where designers were used only to sort of have the fixed furnitures done in, to get the services done in, do the planning, do the layout, all of that. But now I think things are changing. Now the clients are opting for a house which is ready to move.
Right.
They want a character, because if they aren't sure of what they, there are clients who want to style the space themselves once they move in and, sort of let the house age with them. But there are clients who also want a house that's, ready to move in and, just extremely done and ready. So in that case, what happens, the designer itself starts procuring things to style the space as such. So if that's the case, if that's the scenario where the designers are being allowed to style the space as well, I think the stylists have to come in much before, and that's not a week or 2 weeks. It also
middle of the project.
Exactly, middle of the project, because you're procuring everything for the client. It's not just for the shoot, for the staging of the space. So it's because we are trying to have the place done completely. So I think that's where the shift has to happen. So it depends project to project and client to client, whether the client is willing to spend so much on the styling, or they want the house to age with them and they want to style it themselves as it moves forward.
So I think that again comes down to educating the clients. Actually, it so happens in the current scenario, I will tell you in Surat specifically, the architects come and tell us, "Ke mere paas sab hai, aap log kya karoge? Sirf chaddar bichaoge?" So it's about educating the client that you're not only there,
Exactly.
bichao the chaddar. It's like we're setting the frame right, adding character, and it's like balancing and putting everything together and make it a beautiful picture. So basically it's creating a picture skewed, nice, very aesthetical picture. Also that is habitable, not, I will always emphasize that on that, because that's personally how I believe that the space should look like, not look very fragile, that it, isme main rahunga to this will break apart. It should not, that's not how styling should be. Rather it should be ke ye easily maintained hona chahiye, because that person is going to stay in the house for you don't know how many years. So it has to be easier to maintain.
So for a large part of the discussion, it's primarily we are discussing shoots and we are trying to say, okay, documentation ke pehle kya hona chahiye. So usme, as a photographer who happens to be one of the main characters who end up on the day and starts discussing and demanding ye chahiye, ye chahiye. So one of the major things is for us as photographers is the help of a stylist who helps us get better outputs. Get better output is one part, but also more. So, like the person is already preset some of the spaces. So I just have to go there, frame it and start shooting, as opposed to me standing there with the tripod and then asking, abhi idhar kya rakhna hai? And then that discussion will go on for 15 minutes. Ye rakhte hain, ye rakhte hain. Then you can imagine how the whole creative mind, which is like trying to form a rhythm to get the shoots done faster, is suddenly now going to sleep because there seems to be no clarity. And so for a photographer or even the videography team for that matter, the stylist becomes like an important collaborator in that particular activity. And if we find the right stylist who has the attitude to get that done in a better, in a paced way, completely controls the way the shoot is progressing, the client benefits, be it the designer or whoever is the client, they benefit tremendously because they get more pictures out of the same day. Otherwise they would be struggling. I mean, if it takes one hour for each bedroom and by the time you're done 4 bedrooms, you're like done. So it becomes tiring also. You start mentally getting tired and then fatigue sets in. Mental fatigue is the worst thing for any creative professional. And उधर ये मटका रखे कि ये मटका रखे उस पे हम लोग 2 घंटा जा रहे हैं. मन सो जाता है and then rest of it is like चलो क्या लेना है आप बोलो ये रख के लेना है तो खत्म करो चलो let's move on. So where is the quality for the client? And they must have saved some money, but they completely have missed the point of doing a shoot. And today, in today's world, where most clients do not want anybody to enter their house after the site is completed, these pictures are priceless. And they have run a marathon. Okay, they have run a whole marathon. 2 साल से काम चल रहा है वहां पे, पूरा marathon भागा. The last 100 meters is the photo shoot. It is not anything out of the box. It is the last 100 meters. Now, if you don't run the last 100 meters well, you haven't run the marathon, period. You've lost the marathon. So doing a brilliant site, but not stylizing it well, not getting the best pictures out of it, you have lost the project. And if you've spent 2 years, you've lost 2 years of your life trying to get that project right. Now, if the client understands that fundamental, like, this is not an expense for me. I am putting my money in so that I want the pictures to look the way I have visioned the site to be. All of a sudden, the language is different. They speak to you very differently. But to get this into their head, I think is the job of every creative professional to make them listen. I'm not here as a third party. I'm your collaborator. I'm trying to look at this site from your point of view, trying to get better pictures for you. If you leave me in that site as a photographer, I might take only 4 pictures, which I think is good, but you want 25 pictures. So those 25 pictures are for what? It's for you to document and showcase the pictures to the clients, other clients, and get more work. So if this is for that particular reason, this is your marketing cost. Now, do not stinge on like getting a better plant in. Do not stinge on putting an artwork on the wall, borrowing it, begging it. I don't know how you can get it. Do not stinge on getting a better cup from your own house if you have to. Do not stinge on all these things, because the end output starts looking bad. So we have to, I mean, as this is a collective, right? I understand the whole team over here, everybody who's sitting over here, all seems to be on one side of the whole fence. We are all on the collaborators side, where we all want to do something for somebody else's site. And if that is the case, the language that is happening in this end very much depicts how it's going to go forward with the other end. And the other end also has to understand, respect, and care for the people on this end who are trying to make them look good. So how do we reach the message out to them? मैं 20 साल से try कर रहा हूँ.
Is there anything else you guys would want to add on a trainer speech?
So I would like to ask a question to all the designers and stylists who are like playing dual roles, designer and stylist. The best of 2 worlds. Okay, so where does interior designer's part end and where does the stylist part enter? Only people who are doing both should answer.
I think I can take that up. That's a very interesting question, and I will give a very simple analogy. Say if a model has a very phenomenal figure, I think we've all had this hideous incident that happened with Deepika Padukone on Cannes Festival. She has a beautiful figure, but the sari was also very beautiful. The stylist had done a great job, but the makeup artist did not do the job correctly, and the whole thing went not very planned way. So I think that is when the interior stylists come into the picture. You have designed it really well, but as a designer, when you heading towards the end of the project, like Sebastian said, like the last 100 meters are the most important 100 meters, because that's the time the architect or the designer is completely exhausted, and he does not give importance to the artifacts or the right artwork or the right bedding set. That is only going to add on. Like you have a nice flavorful sponge cake, but a right icing is going to make the cake look more delicious and more sellable rather. So I think that is how it is.
I understood the food part.
Yeah, but I think there's a little bit of a gap here, because we as designers start thinking about it very early on. In fact, the first step after closing in any project would be making the mood board.
Yes.
And what's a stylist without a mood board?
Correct.
Right? So I think the association should start very early on if it's happening in a project. Even midway doesn't really work, because then it's completely the designer's vision. If you're starting anything midway, it's completely the designer's vision and of whatever is going on in the site already. But if a stylist has to be involved, I think it should start at the mood board phase itself, because as Zina mentioned, that a stylist is not only looking after textures and layers, but also the colors, and that's what we suggest very early on in the project. So I think when the mood board phase starts itself, of course, then there is a gap, there's a break with the stylist till the site work happens and the designers are more involved in whatever has to come up on site. And I think that association should start again at the end of the project. So it's not the mid, not the end, but I think it should start at the beginning if it has to start. So that it justifies the stylist's work as well. Because otherwise it's just one vision carried forward.
So I completely agree with you, because this is my experience as well. Because when the stylist comes in the last minute, he or she has little or no time to understand the genesis of the project. And a lot of decisions are taken because needs to be taken along the way. And the designer then takes on the whole thing. The designer has one thing going on in the head. Okay, I've done so much when it's a shoot, and why should I now involve somebody else? So now that is so valid because they've already gone. So that is one part of the story. But the second part of the story is also designers who have, when I have seen their sketches, some of the best stylist designers that I've met, I've seen their sketches. If they have drawn a vase with a certain height of a flower there, on the day of the shoot, the same thing happens. So there is some amount of clarity in terms of what is being placed even while they are doing their renders. And when we and when we get into the final shoot and they show me the render and they show me the pot, it seems to be like, matched on match. And I think they have done a damn good job, because while doing the render, you almost are pretty much very, very clear about these things.
But in that case, then the stylist's work sort of, it gets sidelined. Their personality doesn't really come out.
Exactly. So now this is where what you said made so much sense, that if you have a stylist on board with your firm, any design firm for that matter, as a collaborative stylist who sits on the mood boards, who says, okay, fine, if you're doing this, then let's get this artwork in. If you're doing this, let's get this textile and this fabric and texture in. So you create your mood board as a collaborative effort. Then everything goes forward. Then while the painter is doing his last bit, you go on a absolute clarity that these are the things I need to procure, these are the things I need to make. For example, artworks. You can commission artworks only if you have time. One day before the shoot, you will pick up what is available. Now, commissioned artwork vis-a-vis a picked up. I really understand this. So I would say the best way to go forward for stylists is to become collaborators with designers right in the beginning. So a stylist can literally collaborate with 3 or 4 firms and should have the bandwidth to deal with different styles. But then they also build their repertoire of understanding what's available in the marketplace, what's coming in the marketplace, what they can kind of preempt. And then I think the shoot and everything will have some kind of a narration, because you yourself don't want to repeat the same story again and again. So that is one big suggestion, is that get together with designers who are willing right from the beginning. And so you become their collaborator, you're their associate or their consultant stylist. That's the role you can play, not wait for shoots to happen and then look at the photographer. Jaldi kyun kar rahe ho?
This is one thing we had to battle on, getting the stylists involved at the end. So we don't really understand how to go about it, as in what's the role of the stylist? Because like you said, we have our 3Ds going on, we have our renders going on, and we do not just show the fixed furniture, we show the space completely styled. So then if you're executing this same vision, then I handy in the end of the project when we are doing the shoot.
Yes. And so stylists who are looking at only being stylist, she's the right person, start talking to her.
Definitely. I think that's the way forward if we have to show both our prowess.
Yes.
If the stylist has to show their prowess, and even if the designer has to show the prowess.
Internationally, that particular roles are always defined. I mean, the stylist is the one who goes to the store to pick up all the nitty-gritty and the tiny bits. And they have such good rapport with the stores that those pictures come to them on their phones. They can already show it. kind of look at the amount of time that a designer has to then now go to 20 stores to just identify stuff completely out of the way. The designer focus on, this is my color palette, this is my larger story. I will ensure the finishes are good. I'll ensure that the colors are right. And after this, you fill it up with the stuff that makes the client very, very happy, functional, aesthetic, as well as, so they don't put the wrong things in. That's like the key thing. You take a nice, beautiful bedroom, you design the best bedroom in the world, and you just put the bed sheet wrong. Nobody is looking up at the wall. They're staring at the bed cover, and that's it. End of the designer's dreams. So we have seen how this entire thing can become a major problem if it is not put right. But any site which is nicely styled, you walk in and you start getting the right vibes, and it helps the designers. The next question is, kisne kiya hai idhar?
Yeah, so it's a collaborative effort, totally.
Yeah.
And now when clients are ready to buy whatever you're styling because they want that place to look like a certain way, I think it becomes much more important that you start teaming up together early.
So Yamini, samjha?
But I don't think that's the case these days. I don't think that's how it works here.
Yeah, I think this message should go out to more people, particularly the designers, to understand that a stylist is not there just to keep your 2 books and put a plant there in the corner. If you give them the space and time, they can do a lot more. And as photographers, as professionals who need the stylist with them on a shoot, is not for any other, not to just cut down their work, but it happens the reverse way, that we happen to do more work if the stylist is on site, because we are able to do more pictures and better pictures. So it is like a win-win situation, but somehow the so-called budget, client stylish ke liye budget nahi hai, has to now be addressed in terms of purely in terms of what are the outcomes. So you save time, you save effort, you save money, you also get more output from a particular activity. So then the budget doesn't seem to matter. The budget is like, maine paisa bachaya. If a designer who is able to do 3 projects is spending 2 days going to the market to pick up buckets and stuff like that, you can imagine how much time they're wasting and what kind of money they're spending on a per hour basis. So a stylist is earning that money. Why should you grudge it?
Food for thought.
The only thought. So I think this should get out. I mean, you guys, when you're speaking to your clients also, I mean, when we speak to our clients, we put it on a simple parameter. You're doing the styling, go for it. You will get lesser pictures.
To be honest, I'm in the middle of a shoot right now. So I'm taking this call from a client's place. So for us, what happens, this particular project is something that obviously we style on our own. So then a lot goes beforehand itself to have the place set.
So that is good. I mean, Sonal, so that's like really good if it is happening beforehand. But what I have seen is like towards the end, I'm ready to shoot, but they say, then they say, keep it clean only, don't put anything. So these are 2 indicators that.
No, but I'll tell you one thing here that really, I don't know, it baffles me, is that when you're styling the space, to the eye, it looks completely different. And once it comes on the camera, the scale, the proportions, and the whole, what the eye sees is not what the camera sees. So even when you style it, even during the photo shoot, there are a lot of shifts that happen based on the frame that's coming up of that space.
So I think
how much have you styled beforehand?
So I'll give you the I'll give you the synopsis of this. So a person who styles for permanent styling, for living, who does functional styling, has to learn a bit about photography before they become shoot stylists. Here the learning is different. They come as shoot stylists and then they try to do permanent styling. So in a shoot styling, that is where we are setting up the frame, you can push and move the table, the chair, you can remove some stuff out of the frame, etc., etc. It's not a 360-degree point of view. It's a 2-point perspective. It's a single flat 2D image. So when you go into a 3D setup, that's when those stylists start getting a little baffled, because now 360 degrees, you turn, this has to look good, this also has to look good. Oh my God, now what do I do? So it is nicer when you do a 3D thing and then you come down to the 2D and start now looking at the square frame and start moving things around. And without seeing through the lens, without setting the frame and then deciding the styling, a shoot stylist will never be successful. You can't just go preempt it and okay, I'm going to keep this here and there. That's just an idea. But once the frame is set, you should be willing to move and change everything to ensure that the frame looks good. So a good photographer and a good stylist are also collaborators, are very good teammates.
Yes.
I mean, they cannot work any other way. They cannot be like, okay, I'll do my number, you do your number. Both of them will look bad. So even when you choose to work with certain professionals, I think has to be a mental wavelength that matches. There has to be a clear communication line. There has to be a good discussion about, this is how I perceive this particular shot, as opposed to मैं ऐसा करूँगा, तुम निकाल दो इसको. That's a very bad way to approach it. But ego is there. There are some people with ego. I've met stylists with ego. I've met this one, and then the designer comes in. How can they say that what they did is good? Remove everything. I don't like it.
Perspective, like something good to you might not be the best to someone else.
And
so very perspective, and then you have to arrive at a mid ground.
So for a photographer to understand that he is doing this assignment for somebody else and their work is the first lesson. The lesson needs to be also learned by the stylist, that I'm not styling it for myself, I'm styling it for somebody else. So what is their vision? If you start with that point, you normally will not end up with a problem. But it's when you go, look, I like pink, I don't like blue, आपको blue चाहिए, मुझे blue बिल्कुल पसंद है. ये discussion किसने पूछा तुमको blue पसंद है कि नहीं है?
I totally agree.
This is where मेरे पे moment like तू कौन है बे? So the moment some discussion like that happens, I open the t-shirt. तू कौन है? So like, are you paying for the shoot? Are you the client who has hired? No. So control your emotions. Let's get the job done right for the client. If the client does not want to sell flowers on a site, he only believes in foliage, does not believe in flowers. Why are we pushing throat down the site? I mean, these are things which I've seen youngsters do. I mean, I'm just sharing my experience because after 20 years, I've seen so much. I can write a book now. So one of the chapters in the book is we are visiting somebody else's site. First idea, we are visiting somebody else's site and it's our business to make that look good. Now, once this idea is very clear, your communication with the designer is respectful and humble. Your communication with the stylist is also respectful and humble. And everybody then ends up with understanding what the designer finally wants. So if he or she who's designed the place is hiring you, he's happy with the output, you will get the next assignment. If not, another stylist, another photographer. With that, I ended my lecture. Yamini, anything else?
Sorry?
Anything else you want to know?
Yeah, so I think we all would love to know some technical aspects that we should consider, for styling, or somebody who's trying to make a space as a stylist. So what are certain things that should be noted?
The stylist can go first.
Yeah, and then I think I'll step in, who's playing a dual role right now.
Right. So, okay. So I think Zinal.
Yeah, so I think for someone who's starting out as stylist, it's important, like I said, to understand about the photography and the scale and the proportion. I think Sonal has mentioned very clearly that the picture which is appearing like a frame that is appearing to a naked eye is completely different to that on the camera lens. So whenever we are pitching clients, we always tell them that as a stylist, we're going to set the frame right and not style the space, because what is visible to the open naked eyes is very different to that. So that is one thing that you really need to understand, the scale and from what angle that particular picture is going to be taken, because something that is very visual, like the heights that are visually appealing at a eye level might not be as appealing when the angle is getting a little lower at the bed level, probably at a higher angle. So that is one thing that you really need to understand, lights and the angles and the proportions, and from what perspective the picture is being taken. That I think is very important for anyone who wishes to learn. Start as stylists.
Correct. 100% correct.
I think we have a brief idea about the residence styling. Is there anything that we should take care of if it's not a residence, if it's a commercial space?
100%. I mean, just imagine you go to a factory and you start putting flowers teacups and everything there, and cakes and pastries and candles in a bowl so that we can make it look like Diwali. I mean, you will be thrown out of the factory. So the point here is that every space, even if it's a residence, for example, there is a style, right? If suppose the space, the residential space is minimalistic, your styling has to follow that theme. What if it is Mediterranean? What if it is Midwestern, whatever? So there are many names for it. And so all of a sudden, if I am designing something which has a bohemian theme, styling cannot be out of place. It has to completely fall in line. And if it doesn't fall in line, the pictures will not tell the story of a bohemian space. So there is no two ways about it. And between spaces, like for example, in a kitchen, we see styling, the people tend to overdo it, and there are so many vegetables just kept on the table like that. I mean, think about it. I mean, in a real scenario, that that thing is just an overkill. And unless and until you start realizing, okay, fine, let me themeize. So there is on one side there is orange juice and an apple and everything. On the other side there is palak and gobi, and the third side there is pasta and everything. So you don't get a narration there. So I tell them, you think either one thing, either think breakfast or think tea or thing refreshing. Second, the entire styling activity is not to take away the attention from the space. And particularly when you're shooting interior architecture styling. If you're shooting, for example, food spaces look good and colorful. Just imagine you put so much color of items on the kitchen that the kitchen everybody's looking at only the cherries and the strawberries and the orange juice. The designer has lost the plot. You understand? So I think there are so many rules to this. When you're designing an office, for example, I've seen people put novels in the office space. I tell you, that's one big mistake. On every workstation, there is a novel, a stack of novels. I mean, wo banda to danda band kar dega. Because sab novel pad rahe hain udhar office mein aake. It doesn't work. So being practical about it, putting a little bit of effort to thinking, okay, how this space actually functions, finding practical props. These are now things that the stylists have to worry about. I think you will have to tell the story through how the function of the space is depicted through those elements that you are trying to place. It cannot be, devoid of logic. It becomes a joke because even when I look at pictures, I start laughing. I think, "Sahi hai yaar, to idhar hookah pine wale बैठ के." So, you start, and hookah था मेरे पास, रखना था मुझे, किधर तो रख दिया मैंने. And एक मुझे बताओ, अभी सब इधर प्रोफेशनल्स बैठे हुए हैं, इंडिया में कौन अपने बेड पे बैठ के वाइन पीता है?
No, I think in general we are torn apart between making sense
Western culture and also trying to push things. I am not saying it is wrong, but I'm also saying, why are we not able to bring this down to a more logical and rational styling sense? It's only because we are repeating ourselves again and again doing the same thing. Today I get really, I get upset if somebody brings wine glasses to the bed and the family doesn't drink wine. They don't drink wine. Chas pite hain un log, chas. So I said, why are we doing this? No, because we've seen an image somewhere and we are repeating it. So what are we doing? We are imitating. We are not creating anything original there. Instead of that, if you had 2 glasses of chas, you had created something original. So now you have to think, can the chas be put in a better glass? Can it be depicted in a better way? Or is that the only thing that bed pe peena hai? Oh, ye kya? Aur kuch kaam nahi ho sakta. So there are so many ways to look.
Yeah.
I think there's some issue with the internet.
Yeah.
Right. So I think to continue what he was saying is, yes, of course, we need to have sense to the styling.
Practicality as well.
But I think we are somewhere torn apart between making it look beautiful versus making it look just sensible.
Yeah. Like
So
now,
having a right balance of those is what we need to achieve. And that's where I think the creativity even buds up.
Nowadays, we should conceptualize the things and be practical enough of things like what should be styled and what should be kept accordingly. It is much needed.
Yes.
All right. So, okay. So I think you all might have had like the most challenging, styling project, or yeah, style that might have been the hardest to document. Would you tell us about, one such, and like, did that change the course of your decision making, the design
Yes.
process, anything?
Absolutely. I'll start with one. I had a designer who was like at the end of the stage. I want my things to get complete. So we got on board. I told him you have to keep a complete faith on the stylist and the photographer. So we started styling on things, and after that, once the shot was done, and then no, I didn't like that. I didn't like that. This is not what I want. This should be somewhere there. This should be some. So I was like, no, this is not I'm looking for. This is not the client I wanted. Because once the things are shot, the whole day, the whole process is done, we need the client to also understand, be with us. Once the shoot was done, the the client came at the end of the shoot. And then it was like, I didn't like such pictures. I did. And then we had to start the whole process again. So from that point of time, I decided that the designer, the photographer should come all together on the shoot day from the morning and do the styling and do the shooting all simultaneously. So I
would never let that happen. I think I would have a major FOMO of not being there.
On this side. Because the client, actually the designer should be there on the board so that we can understand that what the person exactly wants, what the outcome should be there for his project, basically. So I've decided not to take such a kind of clients,
I think that can be rectified if the stylist is on board in an earlier stage of the shoot. I think then pretty much the clarity of what thing is going where and how are we procuring things, or how are we setting the tone of the entire shoot, or even if it's a permanent styling, how are we setting the mood of the entire space that comes, that is more clear actually, and everyone knows what role we are playing. So I think which we have been focusing a lot on, that the stylist has to go on board and at a very earlier stage of designing. That's one thing that after I started practicing as a stylist, I have learned in my own practice, that I have consciously or subconsciously started allotting a certain space for certain sort of artwork, or it's come inherently to me that okay, if I just add in an artwork here, it will enhance the whole space. So I think that is going to eventually play a role of the thing looking more better at the end stage.
Mm-hmm.
I have one more point to make. So you all can hear me, no? Okay. The one thing that's happening in India is also determined over the Rajasthan festival, where I was asked to speak about heritage. Okay, so are we progressing with our heritage? And I said, no, we are running away from our heritage. So I showed them a whole bunch of pictures that I've shot in the last 2-3 years. And when we look at the pictures, there is no sense of place. These houses can be in Dubai, can be in Singapore, can be in any place, any part of the world. There is not a single picture that showed anything that depicted that this house is in India in the year 2021 or 2022. So what is the thing that depict that this house is in India? If I look at any Japanese house, you look at the picture of a Japanese house, you will know that this house is a Japanese house. Italians are doing exactly the same thing, but you bring the same Italian furniture into India, no problem. But if everything starts looking Italian, we are imitating them again. So we are second best at all times. So in the last 5 to 7 years, designers put together a whole bunch of furniture together, which is like pretty much how it would look like in a showroom. And if you remove all the small styling elements, like for example, your books and everything, it will look like a showroom. There is nothing that tells you that this is somebody's home. And I feel personally now after this Safed Dadi, you being an Indian stylist or an Indian designer or the place being in India, because they have seen enough pictures like that. You take all pictures from Dubai, the Mediterranean, Europe, you will find the same kind of looks and feel. So what is it that changes in India? I think it's going to be the work between the designers and the stylists. So I'll give you one example. There is this project called Beton Brute, which is done in Ahmedabad. It is a brutalist structure. It's basically a concrete structure. The only thing that before the project was I had a chat with the, I said, listen, kuch to Indian karo yaar isme. And you know, they went and put a jharoka there. They put Indian sculptural pieces there. All of a sudden, that project became India. So Indie House, INDIE House, HAUS, is how they start promoting the project. And where is it? It's seen everywhere. Arc Daily Law, Design Law, you name the publications that they wanted to be there, it's all there. Not because of the brutal structure, but because the brutal structure happens to be in India and it is showing Indianness. So now, for example, you take any space and you add one Indian thing. It could be artifact, it could be artwork, it could be objects, it could be textiles. You claim that place to be yours, and that is not happening today. And we will feel sad about this 5-7 years later. Today it's okay, we are getting the business going, I'm doing my shoots, I'm earning my money, stylist is earning the money, design earning money. But when you look back, when you get a little older and you look back, you do not seem to have done any significant work, because none of them stand out. They are like what everybody did at that time. It's gone into that. So it's like a pack of cards. I put all my pictures on the screen. You cannot identify one house from the other. So there is a serious loss of identity. There is a serious loss of sense of place. There is a serious loss of, our heritage, our cultural heritage. I'm not saying do heritage structure, don't do arches and all that. No, absolutely not. Don't repeat the past, but, push it forward. Like if anybody knows of Devigad Fort, which was done by Rajiv Saini 15 years, 20 years ago, the only thing he did is Jaisalmer stone and he did a cutout of a lotus. And that particular project at that time got appeared in a magazine called Wallpaper, and one project gave him the title of 5 best interior designers to watch out in the world. Not India today, not inside outside, but Wallpaper worldwide. So that one little thing, and they kept raving about that Jaisalmer stone and the lotus, and how that became Indian. So now, is that old? No, it is not old. If you look at the pictures, you will realize Ken Hayden shot it at that time, and Rajiv Saini is a designer. I am still dying to see projects like that, and I've shot a few. And I've really kind of put that also in the presentation that I did with the Rajasthan. I told them this is what is called the Indian. All of them are modern. None of them are not modern. But the only problem there was we did not have anything in many of the houses. Even today, when we are on a shoot, I keep looking for something that can say, okay, ye Bombay mein hai, ya ye India mein hai. That picture, Dubai base sakta hu main. House in Dubai, nobody will dispute it. So I have a problem with that. It's not like it's anything very personal, but I think as a professional who is depicting this, my work is also carrying what designers are doing, what stylists are putting in. I would like to say, okay, fine. How do I stand out? I can only stand out if my work, the work that I'm capturing, has some essence. And that essence will come from the other side. I'm not the designer. I'm not creating those spaces. But I wish that somebody would think about it, really, really talk about it, and then get some artwork which says it's India, get some pieces that say it's India, and it can go well if you have to just choose the right pieces. We do not want everything Scandinavian in Bombay. Do we need? I don't think so.
I completely agree, because I myself believe that this has to be carried forward. Like you say, Indian heritage is no less. And the way it can be depicted in different forms, if you have to put it in a modern context, if you have to put it in a contemporary context. So even that works really well. But I think what happens is now with the way, with the onset of Pinterest and Instagram and people having so much view into, the Western parts, the clients are very, very preset in their mind, and they come up with a thought of how their house needs to be. So that's where I think even we have to hold our hands back sometime in saying, because if they say, no, I really want my house to feel a certain way. And, having an element that sort of depicts the Indian heritage, and it's completely out of context. It's out of place. The language of the space is not really coming through. It's not homogeneous. So that's where I think our hands are tied. But, there are some other clients who really, really understand eclecticism, having a lot of mix of styles gotten. So that's where these things can really work. But when a client is wanting a hardcore style to come through in their home, so then even it gets difficult for us also to sort of try to get any sort of newness into the scene.
Yeah. And so the large part of it is that when you are designing it, you can give a modern shell. But I want to ask you, if there is a Krishna painting in the middle of a very modern room, which is done very graphically well, like origami Krishna, for example, do you think that will look bad? I don't think so. It's just now matching the colors, commissioning the art so that it is reflective of our culture and heritage. Now, of all the stylists, at some point or the other, Samir Wadekar's work, he always tries to push in something that is Indian. He always tries to push in. And I've seen him, I've worked with him, so I know that even in a very, very modern, minimalistic setting, he goes and brings in that one little statue from somewhere and he puts it there, and suddenly it becomes a house in India. But now that is nobody questions him, because reputation precedes the work. You lesson to learn. You cannot just go and put a statue and a murti anywhere that you like. And the second thing is to also know places from where you can source such things. And last but not least, have the reputation to say, okay, the designer says, what do you think? And you say like, okay, let's put a Nataraj murti here. And then oh, do you think so? Yes, I think so. And end of story. वो level तक पहुंचना चाहिए, and it comes with reputation. I know how Sam works, so I know how that he goes and places it. There is no discussion, there is no debate, there is no questions asked, and he's so sure and he's so dead clear about it. And those pictures, then definitely you look at them again and again because you wonder like, isko kahan se aaya? So there is the essence of a stylist. It's not the designer anymore. It is now the stylist who's playing a pivotal role in transforming that same space into something that you own. Completely. And that is I think where the stylist should, all stylists should finally achieve the reputation to say ye sahi hai, and nobody questions it.
Yeah, sometimes you need to put your foot down.
And you have to, I'm telling you. There's no other way.
Agreed.
Yeah, Mini?
So, in your stylist, could you, could you have, or, that could be heritage styling, that could be any styling that you particularly follow. It definitely does come after, some number of commercial practices that you've already done.
I think it is dangerous. I think also it's very dangerous if a stylist comes in with their own style and they do not understand the context in which they are styling. That's also very dangerous. And so, I have the discussion on both sides. So the point here is that, okay, you need to be very sure about what goes into this site, but to create a signature style that I will only do this, and no matter what the site is or whose site it is, I'm going to continue to do this, is absolutely a wrong ethics for a stylist to go. A stylist has to blend in. It's like being water. So you go there and you flow into that site and you suddenly feel for it. And then you discover, you look at the people over there and say, oh, this is nice. This characteristic I need to pull out. Now this little piece that they own is much better than buying a new piece. I need to bring this out. So those kind of things is where the stylist becomes sensitive to what he or she is doing. As a photographer, you have to be sensitive. As a stylist, you have to be sensitive. As a designer, you have to be sensitive. Imagine a designer says, I've got this preset idea that I want to now chip out to you. It doesn't matter how you live, I'm going to give you this. You will hate that designer over time. The same way with even all of us. being creative, the first thing is that we are sensitive to what's happening around us. Now, open your mind a little more and you will get things from the critic. Their painting was terrible. I mean, it was not a good painting at all. And the client wanted to put it in the living room. And so the designer was now struggling how to make that work. So the designer found a place which was only in the corridor, but put an extra light on it. Bola ki ye जैसा नजदीक से जाएंगे ना वैसा वो पेंटिंग दिखेगा आपका माँ का. And that's how, but I know that they have to be sensitive to that idea as well. But now if you fall for it and you put that same painting in the middle of the living room, पूरा design के तो पता नहीं क्या हो जाएगा. So there is a huge fight. There is a huge battle that is going on. First, it was between the photographers and the designers. Now it's the photographers and the stylists and the designers. But why are we fighting? My question is, why the hell are we fighting? What is there to fight? We have to be collaborators. So we have to now seek the commonsensical approach. What is the common denominator that we agree upon? And more importantly, how can we better what we already have? And for that, the few indicators that I have is like bring character to this space, tell a story, show that this belongs to this particular region. If it is in Aurangabad, what is it that I can depict that this house is in Aurangabad? What is it? Is there anything that I can bring through? I mean, these are all ideas to think about. If it's not possible, not possible. You have to finish the shoot in 8 hours and get out. You have to do it. But what if we do not explore these thought processes at all? What will happen? We will be where we are. We are stuck. And this stuck is like terrible. You know, मेरा 5 साल का काम बर्बाद है. कुछ भी I don't see anything that I really feel proud about that I shot a house which had so much character. I did one. I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't shoot, but I wish I had more of them. I wish I could represent Indian design at a certain period in history through my work. You know, I would love that idea. I think even every stylist would love to have an idea that in a certain period in history, their work was predominantly what was good. And every architect wants to do that. Every designer wants to do that. But this will not happen with imitation. It will only happen with thinking really original.
Yes.
Working with what we have. Yeah.
Completely agree.
Chalo, we all agree, Yamini.
Okay, so let's ask some questions from the audience if they have any. And yeah. So
Siddharth wants to ask a question.
I
I think it was very interesting, sort of like, the way it has been emphasized on originality and the process, the composition, everything. I think, sir, it's been a pleasure, like you are here at our platform first and foremost, but like, I'll rather ask you that, like, is it the social media sort of actually spoiling the originality of a self creation, a thought of somewhere which is influencing? I think it's been mentioned once, but I just want to
So I'll give you, I heard somewhere. I mean, it was a conversation between me and a very senior designer. And the designer said that I do not look at Instagram or anything else because my imagination doesn't work then. And I read books. So the beautiful thing about reading a book is that your mind now Instagram for references. Instead, take a pencil, a paper, and start sketching. And the moment you start doing these little ideas, listing out things that come to your mind, your experiences, you will end up doing a better job, an original job, than completely replicating what you've just seen. और एक बार एक इमेज बैठ जाती है ना दिमाग में, जैसे कि अरे ये पॉट अच्छा दिखता था, you start looking for that pot. You're not looking for anything else now. Your mind is not seeking anything else. So all of a sudden you're stuck. And then that pot has to come in, that pot comes in, that pot goes in, and you've already been done before. You've just repeated it. So this culture of just completely being glued onto Instagram, looking at images all the way, all the time, is taking away our original imagination. So start reading. I mean, I would really say start reading.
Beautifully
What,
put.
what good is a designer if they cannot imagine? What good is a writer if they cannot imagine? What good is a storyteller if they can't imagine? So we are in that particular genre. And fortunately, unfortunately, as photography also goes, there are 4 or 5 ways to shoot a bed. Unless and until now the designer tends to put the bed in a vertical format, we have only 4 ways or 5 ways to shoot a bed. But it is bothersome to me that we cannot think of something new. So the last shoot we did, we tried to do a drone over the bed, but you know, there are limitations. There are fans there are this there, but I'm struggling. How do we tell the interior story in a different way? And so I can think of a lot of things, but it just does not fall into the 8-hour time frame. And how do we do this? So this is now very common to all of us. And I think as creative people, we are not letting our mind do some work because we just stopped reading. All of us stopped reading. I'm telling you, I'm not also out of it, but yes, we need to get back to books. We need to read, and we need to have conversations with people who have different experiences, and we need to travel.
Yeah.
All right, then I think we all are like. I mean, is there anybody who wants to add on to something or ask something? So,
if nobody's adding on, I will tell, please continue doing what you're doing and get more people to at least have a conversation. This conversation can lead to some more understanding of what we do and why we are doing it. And the first question is why we are doing it. Why am I doing what I'm doing? If the answer is money, then try share market. Zyada paisa milega. If it's in other things, then I think the conversation is very important. It's very late in the day. But how many stylists sit and chat with photographers whom they don't know and ask, like, what do you think? What should be done? And how many photographers call stylists and says, do you think we can do something different? So those conversations are not happening. I know that. We are all meeting on the site on the day of the job and say, like, acha, kaun sa room ready hai? Khatam baat. I mean, that's the end of the deal. Finally, Siddharth will have to publish pictures which ek ke baad ek looks the same. So we are giving him those pictures. Okay, it's our fault. It's completely our fault. So about time to change this. So have conversations, start making calls, just have a little word here and there. And designers, Sonal rightly put it, start talking to them before, like, let us be collaborators on a project right from day one. Let us work on the mood board together. That should be the first suggestion. So it'll all fall into place.
Sorry.
All the best with your shoot, Sonal.
Thank you so much.
we'll end this discussion, and thank you so much for all of you and everybody here. Sonal, Seenal, Sweety, thank you so much.
Lage raho.
Thank you so much. It was a lovely conversation.
Thank you. It was like great talking to you guys.
All the best. Keep doing different things, Sweety.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.